Hi, good morning. Today is Friday, January 22nd, and I am 22 days into my 30 days of yoga with Adriene, and it was so good. Also, continued with TD Jakes' Destiny. Today, what did I read? I read chapter 12, and it was failure is not the end of destiny. So it kind of talks about not being discouraged by failure, not being overcome by fear, talking about regret, and the regret is not necessarily regretting failure, but regretting not trying, things like that. And so I just love this stuff because it's very thought provoking. And even when I did yoga was all about release today, and it was just very invigorating. But anyway, back to destiny and my thoughts on fear and failure, regret, and kind of looking back at my life. When I was young, our family moved around quite a bit. I was born in Wichita, Kansas, and we moved from Wichita to Topeka, Kansas. And at the end of kindergarten, we moved to Illinois. And so for first and second grade, I lived in Glen Ellen. Then in third grade, I moved to Lombard, and I lived in Lombard from third grade to 12th grade. But when I was in sixth grade, I had to switch schools and for a year, and then switch schools again to go from private school to public school again. So by the time seventh grade came around, I felt like I had experienced so much change and so much that was outside of my control, and there were so many things that I didn't understand, or maybe that I had looked forward to before, that I ended up, things didn't come to fruition that I had looked forward to, and got really discouraged and got to the point where I just wasn't hopeful and didn't look forward to things anymore. And I kind of stopped trying certain things. So I can remember that in seventh grade, my mother was signing me up, and she's like, "Oh, do you want to sign up for choir?" And I was like, "No, I don't want to be in choir." And what you need to understand about me is that I really loved choir. But in sixth grade, I had tried out for this solo, and I won against some other people. And and on the night that we were supposed to perform, my dad got me there late, and I missed my opportunity. And this girl who was very envious of the fact that I won the solo, she ended up getting to sing it, and I was so disappointed by that I was like, "Ugh, why did I even try?" So in seventh grade, when I had the opportunity to be in choir again, I was like, forget it, I don't want to do it. And it was at that point in time that I just started to take everything personally, and kind of started to retreat, and not to try, not to look forward to things, and where I kind of even gave up on things that I normally would have enjoyed. Like as a little kid, I loved going to the swimming pool and swim, and I remember in eighth grade that my mother's like, "Oh, I'm going to sign you guys up for swim lessons at the Y." And it was going to be me, my younger brother and younger sister. And my younger brother and younger sister were all gung-ho about it. And for me, I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And the reason that I didn't do it is because I was very self-conscious about my weight. When I was at the end of seventh grade, I weighed 105 pounds, and at the end of eighth grade, I weighed 135 pounds, which now I look at as nothing, but I really saw myself as fat and was just kind of uncomfortable in my own skin. And I had been so many different things had just disappointed me that I had just withdrawn into myself, and so I wouldn't allow myself to have that joy. I wouldn't go, I didn't allow myself to learn how to swim the right way, and which explains, like, I know how to swim now, but I never took a lesson, and I can probably walk faster than I can swim. But I really love the water. So sometimes we let our, these internal feelings that we have, these doubts, these fears, these worries, keep us from moving forward and doing things and finding, appreciating the things that we really enjoy. And it's like we're robbing ourselves of joy. So that kind of struck a chord with me. It also talked about failure and how, you can't get discouraged by failure. That failure can, it's just a part of the process. And, just because you fail doesn't mean that you're not going to, achieve that destiny that you are walking towards. And so I've got an example of that too. When I was in college, I basically went to college because that's what I was supposed to do, not because, I had any particular goals or anything like that. So I went to college and I kind of took it like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I didn't ask any questions. I didn't, lean on college counselors or anything like that to help me pick my classes or anything like that. And I ended up really picking the wrong classes, and the course load that I had was far more challenging than it needed to be. And I ended up not really doing very well my first semester. And, if you start off and you did poorly your first semester, you basically wrecked your GPA, and it's an uphill battle going forward. So fast forward, I ended up being on probation my second semester, and I was able to get past, I was able to bring it up. But then my first semester of my sophomore year, I did okay, but I didn't do as well as I should have been, because I did so poorly my first semester, my freshman year, that it really was kind of it was just a massive effort it's almost like I had to be perfect, do everything perfectly, for the next 2 semesters in order just to get myself on the right footing. And so my sophomore year, there was a class that I didn't do well in, and I ended up getting kicked out of school. They're like, oh, well, you didn't do well enough, so we don't think that you should be here. And I felt horrible, and I felt ashamed, and I felt like a failure, and I didn't want anybody to know. And I think that me not wanting anybody to know and not wanting to admit the failure is probably what helped me, because I ended up still going back. And luckily I was living in a private dorm, and I was able to sign up for classes at a community college that was near the university that I had been enrolled in. And so that second semester of my sophomore year, I went there, and I took a full load, and maybe I even took 18 hours, and I ended up doing really well. Most of my classes I got A's, and one of the classes I think I got a B, so I had a very high GPA there. And then in the summer I took additional classes, and I got A's in those classes, and so I was able to go back to university and say, hey, here's what I did, and can I come back? And they said yes. And that was actually the way in which I was able to not only get back into the school, but to get admitted to the College of Business, which was a very, very good business school. And most people that I knew of that wanted to be business majors, that went to that university from freshman year and took all the gen eds. Most of those people didn't get into the College of Business, and if you wanted to get in the College of Business and your GPA wasn't high enough, you ended up being an econ major. And so it was interesting because I was able to go. I was able to get in, even though I had been kicked out. And so sometimes failure actually puts you on the right path. And, so I was able to go to business school, and I was able to utilize that. And just in my professional career, I had a career in business and was able to, rise to being the CEO of a company, and, of a mid-size company. And that's not necessarily something that I would have envisioned for myself. Definitely wouldn't have envisioned it for myself, when I was in college and when I was struggling. But I'm happy to say that I didn't let my failures stifle me. And that I persisted, not necessarily because I was really striving towards something, but just because I had the inclination to keep going and not to give up, and to follow through on what my commitments were. So that's a part of my road and my destiny. So I definitely buy into the fact that you can't let failures hold you down. There's always something that you're going to learn from those experiences that are going to better you in your future. So that's all I have to share today. Anyway, I stayed true with my commitments. I woke up this morning, I prayed, I read my Bible, I did yoga, I read this book to get some inspiration, and lastly, before I really get my day started, I've made this video journal. So true to my commitments on day 22. Have a blessed day.